publicly targeting 75 congressional seats held by Democrats. I expect that number to grow. Now, if I were leading the Republican effort for the midterms, I would try to put every race in every state in play. Yeah, I'd even put the New York governor's race in play. Anyway, here now with more from her big win last night, Congresswoman-elect Mayra Flores. Congresswoman, first of all, congratulations. Everything was perfect in your video. We got to work on that soccer kick a little bit. I didn't know soccer kick needed a little help.
No, thank you so much. I appreciate it. All the
your
support.
family and your life story is beyond compelling. A district that was Democratic for 150 years. Now, you were on the ground. Obviously, illegal immigration had been a big issue where you live. Tell us what changed, what happened?
Well, you know, I was blessed to come here to the United States legally when I was 6 years old, and I want that experience for all children. I don't want any child to have to go through such dangerous journey, so I'll never understand why the Democrat Party continues to encourage with their policies illegal immigration, knowing what they're going to go through. And I want to focus on legal immigration and improve the process where they don't have to go through that journey. And look, we don't have to hear it in TV about the border crisis. It's happening here right behind our backyard. So it's very real to us. Child trafficking is very real to us. And children are innocent no matter where they're from, and they should be our priority.
So your parents came here legally, like my 4 grandparents came from Ireland legally, and they came through Ellis Island. We see something happening. We always do polling in election years, and we break things down demographically. What we've been witnessing is a dramatic shift among Hispanic American voters, African American voters, the youth vote in particular. Women voters are out there. They're all leaving the Democratic Party, at least on paper for now. We've seen a few political earthquakes. I would argue your race is a huge potential bellwether for what may happen in November. Why do you think that people in demographics that historically have been in the Democratic Party or the Democratic Party coalition, why are they now leaning towards the Republicans and conservatives?
Well, I feel like the Democrat Party has walked away from the Hispanic community. They've gone so far left, and they don't represent our values. People always ask me, Mayra, how can you be a Republican whenever you were born in Mexico? And that clearly shows me that they know nothing about our culture. I was raised with strong conservative values. We're all about faith and family and hard work. That's who we are. So our values do really align with the Republican Party. But I do feel that, you know, for a long time prior to 2020, no one was really paying attention to the Hispanic community. And I'm grateful that finally the Republican Party is investing in the Hispanic community because we are the future. But the Democrat Party has completely abandoned us and taken us for granted. They feel entitled to our vote, and they feel they don't really have to work for it. And what we're showing now is that, yes, you do have to work to earn our vote. And that's why we won this special election, because we worked hard. We knocked thousands of doors, made thousands of phone calls. I have the most hardworking team. And that is the reason why we're also going to win that re-election in November, because no one is going to outdo the work that we're doing.
Well, and by the way, Elon Musk voted for you. I'm kind of fascinated with Elon Musk. I think he's a great modern day innovator and a really, he's a real true original to me. What'd you think of that?
I was honestly so excited when I heard about it, and I'm so grateful that he came here to South Texas and invested in this community, because again, this community is amazing. We're all about, you know, family and hard work, and finally, you know, so many people are like Elon Musk are coming here to invest in this community, and will always be grateful to him and SpaceX, and I can't wait to meet with him and have an opportunity to tell him, you know, what the plans that we have ahead for Texas District 34.
You have clout now. You are the elected congresswoman. The sad part is you got to run again in November. I understand it, in a redrawn district. We're going to follow your career very closely. We congratulate you, Congresswoman.
You so much.
Thank you for being with us.
Hey guys, welcome to Matt in Exile. And this is John Cordisco.
Hi, guys.
So, what do you think about that election that happened in Texas?
Well, I think it's pretty much a symptom of the sickness of the Democrats. They're doing the same thing to African American voters.
So,
And
do
they're
you think
just ignoring them and figure they're going to vote my way no matter what we do because you're a certain race or color. And that shows their true racism, frankly.
Do you think this is a bellwether for what's coming next in the in 2022?
It's hard to say. It's nice to say that a Republican hasn't been there in 150 years. That's a nice, talking point. But I think it's maybe we're going to have to see. Now, she has to run again in November. We'll see how she does. But this is only one district. And you'll see through the Real Clear Politics and other things that they'll list the toss-up seats, pretty much guaranteed blue, pretty much guaranteed red. And of the 20, I think it was 32 toss-ups, 29 of them are Democrats.
Yeah.
And that's something that I think all the stars are converging, so to speak. They're all coming around, and I don't think it's so much because the Republicans in Washington, most of them I have very little faith in. I think what's happening is it's not so much the Republicans en masse are better. The Democrats are so bad, and I hope that doesn't continue with the new Congress. Because what kind of a way can you campaign and say, well, we're not so great, but look how bad the Democrats suck. Well, they've been doing that for 40 years. It's time to change.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll talk to you on the phone about how it's similar to election that happened when it comes to overall situation, like the economic situation, as well as at the time there's a pandemic happening in 1894, and you did a video about it.
About a year ago, I did. I did a little research. A lot of like I said, the stars were all aligned. Economic hardship, all kinds of other things, and the Republicans ran a really good campaign. Now, back then, of course, it was a lot different than they have the media outlets, and people think that media outlets are partisan now. Newspapers were privately owned back then, and that was 99% of the information people got. They were incredibly partisan.
Yeah.
So they ran a really good campaign, but it was interesting that it was the only president to get 2 non-consecutive terms in his second term when they got put out. But everything was aligned: economic hardship, depression, food shortages. I mean, they say history doesn't repeat itself; it rhymes. And that certainly happened. And all the stars are lining up just in the same way this time. And I'm incredibly encouraged. And I pray that the Republicans don't drop the ball once they get it.
Well, right now they're saying it's going to be in between 70 to 50 seats changed over.
I said 61 was my guess. And that's a little high.
My guess was 70. And
okay.
I know people that have more. Now, do you think we might be lowballing? Do you think it might be closer to what happened
no.
1894? Because in 1894, it was 130 seats.
Yeah.
Switch.
Well, the thing was, though, I don't think they had the deep, deep blue districts and the deep, deep red ones like we have now. I'm sure there were districts that were heavy Democrat or Republican, but I don't think there were as many. So there are probably a lot more. I haven't really checked each congressional district. There are probably a lot more what I call, quote unquote, swing states or swing districts that they could get those large numbers. Today, we're a lot more polarized. So I think 61 would be our version of their 100 and change.
The other thing is, when I was looking at it, I was like, what about the Senate? And then I remembered the 17th Amendment was in play then, where the Senate was
appointed by the state.
Yeah, it was appointed by the state. So it was different when it came back then. So you can't compare to what's going on with the Senate. Now, how many seats are actually up for grabs in the Senate? I can't remember. I think
it's always a third. A third is every 2 years.
Yeah, it's about 33.
So 33 to 34, depending how the number falls. And now this cycle, the vast majority are Republican defended.
Yeah.
Now, 2 years from now, in the presidential year, it's going to be the mirror opposite. The vast majority are going to be Democrat defended because you can't pick up seats when you have 3/4 of the seats that are up for election. You can't really get that many.
Yeah. Well, but what I saw, it was 22 Republicans defending, and the rest were Democrats. I think it was like
2/3,
11 or 12.
Yeah, 2/3 of them, yeah.
So I was like this, well, if they could get, at least half of them, they have the Senate.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to get too greedy. It would nice to have a veto-proof majority in both, but that's not going to
Well,
happen.
that's not going to happen. You would have to get even getting to 12 wouldn't get you there.
And I'll tell you the truth. I mean, we talk about this a lot. I mean, privately and people I know in politics. As we break this down on how the House is every 2 years in the Senate, this is the brilliancy of the founders. This is brilliant because they knew, well, of course, back then they were appointed by the states. They knew that every 2 years you could have huge swings.
Yeah.
They said, wait a minute, huge swings aren't necessarily permanent. People are just overreacting to something. So we'll make the Senate a third of them in their 6-year term. It was a brilliant setup. And people say, well, John, that creates gridlock. Well, you know what? It was set up for gridlock on purpose.
It was set up to slow things down, make sure you actually want to do it.
Yeah, Jordan Peterson said, hell is a long ways down, he said, and coming back from that's 10 times harder than stopping it to begin with.
Yeah.
And it just shows the brilliance of it. And then, I think that saved our republic many times.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You could, the filibuster is a perfect example of that, trying to get rid of it. Not only that.
Well, that was a man-made rule, though. That wasn't a constitutional thing.
Not only that, if you look at it in the Supreme Court, them trying to pack it whenever Roosevelt was in office. And who was fighting them against that? Not only Republicans, Democrats were fighting against it as well.
Yeah, I forget what happened that turned the tide in the end. But
yeah, and they slowed it down because of the way the Senate and the House is set up. Slowed him down and kept him from actually doing it.
Now, when it comes to the Constitution, maybe this is very optimistic thinking, but I think I'm hoping that enough state legislatures that we can have a constitutional convention.
You have to have
never been done. Never.
You have to have at least 38 for that to happen.
38, yeah. And two things I would change right immediately. Number one is I would put an amendment to the Second Amendment, making it clear about gun legal possession so a 5-year-old can understand it.
Yeah.
And number two is I would make the number of seats on the Supreme Court permanent at 9. That way the issue is over and done with.
I think I would add something else. I think I'm still a believer in term limits.
Yeah, so you and I differ on that one. Well, you know what it is, though? Here's the thing. Think about this for a minute. I know I won't convince you, but in a way, we talk about giving people a choice. You're taking away choice.
How are you taking away choice?
I have a great congressman, and say there's an 8-year term limit, 4 terms, and he or she's doing an outstanding job, and they're term limited out. You're taking away my choice to vote for the person that's doing a good job and I like. You're taking away my right to vote for that person.
You could find someone that has the same belief system as
good luck. Good luck finding somebody. Effective people are a small percent.
That's the thing. When you do what you're doing, that's when you're having situations that you're having now. Who's president now? He's been in office for 50-something years.
I understand that part.
And then you got Feinstein, the congresswoman from California, who you look at her, she looks like she's dead when she's in she's actually there.
I'll speak from personal experience. I was term limited. I was a councilman in the early 2000s here in upstate New York. I was a Democrat back then, but I was, an old school Dem. And my reelection, I won the first election by 17 votes is all. My second, my reelection, I got 65% in a low income area. And I remember at the end of my second 4-year term, people kept calling me, John, we want you to run again. We want you to run again, but I couldn't. And then we ended up with 2, 3 right in a row, progressive nut bars.
Well, why didn't you run for a higher office?
Well, I thought about running for mayor. I just didn't have the resources to do it. You need a lot of your own personal resources. And I was a Republican by then. And some of the Republicans, they were better suited for being mayor with their experience and their name recognition. I was a polarizing guy in a good way and bad way sometimes. I was known for the guy that doesn't put up with much BS. And so I'm one of those guys. They said it was Trump before Trump. That's what they said when Trump came along. You were just like him. But either you hated me or you loved me. I was a polarizing character.
Well, the other thing is if you don't have term limits, then you're actually allowing the older generation to stay in power and putting their and not allowing the younger generation to actually grow up
Sure, you
and
can.
start. No, no, they're not growing up, man. If you want to see people like in my generation, you hardly see these people in politics. You know why? It's because they don't care. You know,
Well, but
I heard this
having
one.
term limits isn't going to make them care.
I think the point is they need to be able to get into politics, and these older generations are keeping them from being
Yeah,
able
but
to get
getting
in there.
involved in politics and helping candidates and doing all the legwork and the groundwork and all the things that a congressional or a higher up campaign, you need a lot of people, a lot of volunteers. Get them involved in that. A very, very tiny percent of people that are involved in politics run for public office.
So you're okay with the senator dying in office, even though you could get someone who's younger, actually have better.
Oh, Senator Hines died in an airplane crash.
Yeah, but that ain't the point. The point is these people, majority of them, they get elected in there, and they're almost lifetime appointments, pretty much.
And why
And
is that? And why is that?
why is that? It's not always because they're good. They're actually doing what the constituents
Then the
want.
people make their choice, and sometimes people make crappy choices.
Yeah, I know.
But you're
the
still
thing,
taking
the
away
thing
the
is,
choice.
The thing is, whenever you start gerrymandering stuff to the point where it actually
Well, you
sides with
can't
one side or the
gerrymander a
other,
Senate seat, so.
well, that's bullshit. They said they gerrymander it. Yes.
Well, no, it's
They
a whole state. How can you gerrymander a whole state?
When it comes to Senate seat, you can gerrymander it. Will be on your side. Not only that, there's a lot
the
of
X amount of people. The people that voted are still the same amount of people, no matter what. It's a whole state.
either way.
Congress
Congress
in my opinion,
in
got a point.
In my opinion, when it comes to Senate seat, it shouldn't even be done by the people. It's something that should be done by the states.
I know. Well, but it went through the constitutional process and amended, and so they had jumped through a lot of hoops to do it, and it was done on purpose. I'm not a big fan of it. I would change that next, by the way. It would have been my third item in a constitutional convention is the theory was at the time there was so much corruption going on, but that was just Wilson and those in the pain in the behind Democrats that did that.
Well, they saw an opportunity to try to steer the country to more of a democratic system. And that's the reason Democrats want to get rid of the electoral college too, because they want people to be elected by the popular vote instead of by electoral college.
I just put out an episode about Civil War, and that's a common topic. And here's the problem, and I even wrote it down so I wouldn't get it wrong. The problem is we have two polar opposite sides colliding. One is a multicultural democracy, and the other one is a constitutional republic. And they cannot survive in the same living space. One of them has to win and one of them has to lose. And that's what the war is really and truly all about.
When Democrats say you're against democracy, I say, yes, I am. I am against democracy.
Yeah,
I'm
democracy got us Jim Crow. Democracy got us women can't vote.
Exactly.
Democracy got slavery. You go through the list.
Yeah, exactly. I want a constitutional republic, not a democracy.
Oh, yeah. In fact, that's the only way to survive it.
Yep.
James Madison called it the tyranny of the majority.
Yep.
They talk about flyover states. Can you imagine if we had no electoral college? The entire center of the country, unless you lived in Chicago or a big city, wouldn't get any. They wouldn't even give a damn what you thought.
Nope. They'll be going to California and New York. And that's
you can't hurt them. Yeah, you can't hurt them.
Yep.
It's the brilliance of it. Everybody puts it down, and it's beautifully done. It could be changed by population shifts. So it's a kind of a living thing in a way that when population shifts, electoral college numbers shift by states. It's considering the fact that it was in the 1790s and it was all done from scratch. What a brilliant setup. These guys, we were lucky to have all those guys at exactly the right place at exactly the right time.
Yeah, I agree.
That will never happen again in the history of the world.
But my thing about the term limits, especially in the Senate, why do we have a term limit in presidency then, or term limits anyway?
Well, that's a little different because that's a whole one branch of government that's run by one person. I can see, and that was an amendment, by the way. That was
after Roosevelt. Yeah.
Yeah. It was up in the air. In fact, there was, who was it? who's going to run for a third term. I think Grant was thinking about it and somebody else. And of course, the party wouldn't go along with it because of the Washington rule.
Yep.
And that's another thing, too, people don't realize. They get on our founders in Washington. This guy walked away from mammoth power twice.
Yeah.
He had the standing army. Now, in
Well-
Europe, you win a war and you're the general, you're now the president.
Well, my thing is, if he's willing to do that, why aren't these senators willing to do the same thing?
That's oranges and apples.
But no, it's not, because they're using their power. People like
Just because I mow my
Mitch
lawn
Mc-
every week doesn't mean the guy down the street has to too.
well, people like Mitch McConnell and others in that house are using their power and using their ability to control the economy and being involved in the stock market to enrich themselves. It's no coincidence. Majority of these people, when they get in there, they're not rich, and then they come out filthy rich.
All
It's
right,
not coincidence.
So what would you put for a term limit in the House of Representatives?
In the House, 2 terms max.
4 years.
Yeah.
Okay, so you would have a new person come in.
Yes.
They have 2 years. They get reelected. And then a new crowd comes in. Do you think for a minute things are going to change? Do you think somebody that's new, and we use Trump as an example. He came into government absolutely clueless of what went on, and they railroaded his behind. Now,
Okay.
that's going to happen again with all the new
All right.
Congress people.
Well, how would you try to keep the rich? How would you try to keep people like Nancy Pelosi and so on and so forth from using the stock market?
I don't care if they're rich. They
I
have
don't care if they're rich, but I care when they get in there, they use their power to control the stock market in order to benefit themselves.
That's a whole
But
different
all
issue.
of them do it. All of
I
them do it.
realize that. So
And
then
then the system is corrupted and it needs to be fixed. And the only way to fix it is either put term limits or
well,
make
remember,
it,
they're not appointed. They're voted for. I look at AOC. She took out that Democrat that was there for 100 years.
Yeah. Okay.
It happens.
My point is,
Less than I would like, but
my point is, you got to change it one way or other. Because if you don't, guess what? It's going to stay corrupted, and you're going to have the same issues you're having now. It's going to stay
it'll
the way
always
it
be
is.
corrupt no matter what, term limits or not, because of one single thing. You're dealing with human beings that are amazingly flawed, and that will never change ever.
I'm not disagreeing with you. What I'm saying is majority of people, when they first get into an office, they're not corrupted quite yet. It takes time, and it takes the ability to not care about other people and care about what's going on in the country.
I remember the movie Lincoln. They did the
Yep.
13th Amendment, and remember he's talking the guys that were trying to convince the congressmen to vote for it because a lot of them were voted out because they didn't swear them into a march back then, so it went a little longer.
Yeah.
And remember what the guy said? Well, just send out bribes, just get some money and bribe these guys. They'd starve without it. And that was 1860, what, 4, 5? Nothing's changed because people haven't changed, and changing the rules around will not change human nature one iota.
So pretty much, you think it's
We're
okay
stuck.
for it
We're
to stay
stuck
the way
with an
it is?
imperfect product called human beings, and we do the best we can.
Well, the point is, my point is, you don't stick with the same thing and do the same thing
Then
over
vote
and
'em
over
out.
again.
Then
You don't
vote
do
'em
the
out.
same. You don't. Well, the thing is, it's hard to vote people out whenever they have constituents that aren't willing to. That's the
Well,
problem.
then that's on them, and that's on them.
No, it's on everybody, especially when you put someone in there
I
like Nancy
appreciate
Pelosi.
that. It has a ripple effect. I get it.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I'm
the
sorry, but
alternative, I think, is worse.
I didn't elect Nancy Pelosi to go and run the
No.
House and push her agenda in there.
And then people in San Francisco are saying, I didn't elect Ted Cruz.
Yeah.
I mean, you could go through the whole list.
Exactly. That's why you should be fair enough and just make.
So how would term
limits.
limiting Ted Cruz help the person in San Francisco? None.
How would leaving Nancy Pelosi in office help people in Texas? None.
That's up. It's
It wouldn't.
representative. That's why they call them representatives. Representative their district.
But still, either way, the fact is majority of this green energy crap and everything else, the reason it's there is because these people that are in the Senate and the House are doing it on purpose, and they're doing it to get rich.
Do you think that
That is the
somehow
problem.
that will change dramatically if there's term limits?
Yeah, I think it will.
No, you don't know that. You're just guessing that it might.
You don't know it won't. The point is, it's never been done. So if it's never been done, then there's no case study to tell you that it won't work.
Once you cross that bridge and make the constitutional amendment for term limits, you can't go back.
Hey, I'm fine with that.
So what ends up being worse?
I don't see any chance of that being happening.
You're making the same mistake that Democrats do. They want to make these big changes and they don't see the alternatives down the road that might happen and flip back over on itself.
Okay, what could happen? Tell me.
What could happen? You get these naive, brand new congressional members, and you say, we want younger people. I will bring younger in. All these young, new congressional people, and they're going to be looking for guidance. And who's going to guide them? The DNC and all the regional things and the congressmen, people that are there. It's not going to change any.
That I don't disagree with you. But the thing
so it's not going to change, then why bother?
The thing is, I don't want them to get rich by using me to do so.
And by using the laws, then that's a whole different issue.
Well, okay. All right.
No, we won't change term limits. I don't want to talk about this forever.
We won't change term limits. Let's go to let's make it where they cannot own stock portfolio while they're in office. How about that?
You can't. You're taking away. You're taking constitutional rights away from a person because they're elected. You can't do that.
Well, no, they don't have to run. It's their choice. That's
now,
part of them running.
If you put all their stocks in a blind trust, I might go along with it.
Well, I don't care about that. That's fine. But either way, if you make it where
in the blind trust, they would have no idea where the stocks were being invested in.
Okay, that's fine. That's why I'm saying. They don't have any control over that investment. That means they don't know what they're being invested in or not.
In fact, presidents do it all the time. They put everything in a blind trust.
Yeah, they have.
I would go along with that in a second, but it doesn't take away their right to buy and invest because they have the same rights as the guy walking down the street. Remember?
Okay.
So put it in a blind trust.
But the thing is,
we'll see what happens. Try that.
But the thing is, I know what you're saying about that. But the thing is, doesn't it? Don't they have an option whether or not they're going to run or not? Yeah, they have that option. If they know, hey, if I run, that means I do not control my portfolio. Someone else will be doing it in a blind trust. They have that option not to run because they don't want to run.
Why would that affect them? Yeah, they couldn't get as rich. Okay,
that's what I'm saying.
All right, that's fine.
Not only that, if they don't know what they're actually invested in or anything,
no problem. Put it in a blind trust.
That means they can't use the government to control how to control.
It'll solve part of the problem. I mean, it's a better solution than term limits.
I still like term limits, but whatever. Because
I've seen it here at a local level, and it really is crappy. And I'll tell you what, always, and here locally where I live in upstate New York, always turned out badly, every single time.
When it comes to local, I don't really understand having term limits that way. When it comes to federally, I do understand it.
Well, the people are the same, though. Anyway, I think we've talked about term limits enough. We're just not going to convince each other. I think you're taking away people's choices, and I always see that. I always say no. You're taking away the choice to vote for who they want to because you take away one of their choices, and I think that's wrong.
I don't see it as wrong. I see it as
taking away somebody's choices is always wrong. No. Always.
It's not. When it comes to that, they know
it's at least wrong than what's going on now. So
no, that ain't what I'm saying. I'm saying if you're going to have a certain if you're going to have this where the president has 2 terms and he's a federal employee,
that was done by constitutional amendment. So do the constitutional amendment and make the term limits in Congress and see what happens.
That's fine. That's what I'm saying.
I don't think
because
it will.
You have Cruz that's been pushing it. You have other people that have been pushing it, trying to get it to happen.
Of course, they've been pushing it because they're in their second, third terms in the Senate already.
Well, they're not getting
first. You think a first-term congressman's gonna go for that? You're kidding yourself.
It's because majority of them see it and they're like this. They're like, something needs to change. So why not term limits? And that's gonna be their first.
Yeah, that's just a guess. We're hoping it's gonna work out, but we can never go back once we do it. That's the problem.
Well, you can go back. You could change it. Just like
another constitutional amendment to repeal. There's only been one amendment that's been repealed, and that's been prohibition.
Yeah.
One.
Okay. Mr. Negative.
No, I'm just telling you what the history says.
I know what the history says. I get it. But the thing is, if you keep doing the same
How about
thing
term limits
over
for the Supreme Court?
I don't care. That's fine. If you want to make it 18 years, that's fine.
Yeah, but then when it falls on your retirement age comes up, it's the party that you don't like in the presidency. It can screw up the court.
It is
It's a life. It's a
at that
life
point.
appointment for a reason. That way, you supposedly, in theory, can't be corrupted.
If people want to do that, that's fine. But the thing is, when it comes to
Well, they're the tyranny of majority again. There we go.
That, all right, look, when it comes to term limits, I believe term limits got to happen, because if it don't happen, you're going to have you're going to keep on doing the same thing.
I think you're throwing the baby out with the bathwater, but that's just, we're never going to agree.
No. All right. Let's go ahead and go to what's going on with January 6th. What do you think?
You mean the commission?
The committee.
Or the committee, commission, it's the same thing.
It's not. No, it's not.
What is that? The Spanish Inquisition, you mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
I find it funny that the ratings were in the crapper, and then they turned around on Wednesday. They weren't going to have any because they were afraid that the Supreme Court was going to overturn Roe v. Wade and blah, blah, blah. They have a TV producer producing the whole thing. I mean, come on, man. Really?
Actually, I like this question from how about age limits instead of term limits?
Oh, there's how far you want to go with that?
No, I'd say 65.
Do you think
70.
Do you think Donald Trump today and Biden are fairly close in age? Do you think they're even close in mentality at all?
Be honest with you, I think Trump, if he runs in 2024, he might be a little too old. You know, his age and his viability.
I know some people in their late 70s that are sharp as hell, and I know some people in their 30s that are dumb as a bag of rocks.
I met people the same way.
I mean, no, what I mean is that I do that for driver's licenses. They test them more often if they're older.
Well, you have age limits when it comes to how young they can be to run. So why not have an age limit? How
old that's maturity. Maturity theoretically doesn't go away as you get older. You become more mature.
Not necessarily.
Well, unless you have dementia or some other medical condition, yeah.
Well, I believe.
I think it's still up to the people to decide. In the end, it has to be their decision. Now, whether they get proper information from media to make that decision is a whole different issue.
I actually don't completely disagree with you on that. It's up to the
just like
voter.
Your congressman with term limits. It's up to the individual voters. Always has been. And anything that takes away even this tiny amount of rights from people, I have to say no. You're a freedom-loving guy. I mean, you're chipping away at the Second Amendment, and you're chipping away in a different way, in a different issue, and that's kind of the same.
No, it's not. It's nothing like that.
Term limits is a drastic change. Very drastic. An age limit is also a drastic change.
It's not a constitutional right for you to be able to run until you're dead. You know, there's nothing in the Constitution allows you to do that. You know what I'm saying? There's a constitutional amendment when it comes to allowing to own a gun or
how about we make the rule you have to own land in order to run for public office like the old days?
Well, you used to have to own land before you could actually vote. They didn't go by the color of your skin.
Too.
They didn't go by the color of your skin.
There's no constitutional right that guarantees you can vote if you don't own land. So why don't we do that?
That's not really up to.
No, what I mean is you can go on and on with this thing, and
I know what you're saying.
It ends up back where we started.
Yeah. Well, you could also have a constitutional amendment where you have to have a certain IQ to vote too, if you want to.
Yeah, theoretically, but it would never pass. But
no,
age restrictions. I mean, we would. Barack Obama can get in, but Ronald Reagan will be pushed out. I mean, that's what we're looking at here.
Yeah. I'm not disagreeing with you on that.
I mean, the sword cuts both ways on term limits, age limits. We're trying to fix a problem. It's like in the old days when you got sick, we'll bleed somebody a little bit and hope. I mean, you're trying to solve a problem, and the issue, what you're trying to do is not going to solve the problem. You're just hoping that it's going to. And it's like I'm a chess player. And you can ask any chess instructor. Hope chess. I'm hoping my opponent's going to do this.
I got a question. Is any law that the federal or state government makes, they're hoping it works? Isn't everything a hope? Because there's no guarantee it will.
And you can get rid of that law very quickly. You make a constitutional amendment for term limits or age. Good luck trying to get rid of it. It's 100 times harder to go back. I mean, I would rather have every single federal law, especially social programs, have a sunset clause. Okay, we go back. Okay, it's going to run out the end of this year. Let's take a look how this program is doing.
Okay,
If
okay.
it's not, we'll get rid of it. I think
then-
that's fair.
Instead of a constitutional amendment on the term limits, make it a law, and have a sunset on it for 20 years and see what happens with the government. And
It would have to be a constitutional amendment. You can't do a sunset clause on term limits.
All right. Yeah, I'm sure you could figure something out.
I think
You
the
could do
states
something.
might be able to. I'm not sure. I'm not
Okay.
a constitutional scholar,
All right.
but a state might say that, but I don't think it would hold constitutional muster.
All right. Why don't? That's why we have states. It's like a.
Yeah, but remember what you said.
It's a test.
Remember what you said. If one state decides to go along with what you want, that in Iowa, that affects the person in Idaho. So, there is some federal constitutional oversight. I.e. the Commerce Clause. States can't start charging tariffs to other states. There are some things they can't do.
Well, if that was true, then Oregon went and tried to go after Texas for that abortion law. Not Oregon, it was Washington State.
Yeah, what happened to it?
What happened to it?
It got thrown in the garbage.
Actually, they did try something, and Texas said, "All right, we'll stop sending you oil and gas. We'll stop sending refined oil and gas to you."
Yeah, but they couldn't stop the refineries from sending it to them, or vice versa. So it was just virtue signaling. It was pointless.
Well, the thing is, when that was said, that's when Washington threw it out. That's when Washington State threw it out. They said this ain't worth it.
Well, they knew at the beginning it wasn't worth it. It was virtue signaling. When somebody called them
Yeah.
out, they went, "Oh, okay, we're wrong."
Exactly.
Well,
That's exactly my point. It was virtual signaling, and whenever Texas called them out on it, they threw it out because they knew that they couldn't get away with it. Texas knew they couldn't get away with it either, but Texas said,
the only thing
"All
that
right."
states can do for as far as electoral goes is kind of like I think it's Nebraska and the state of Maine does with the Electoral College. And that's right on the limits of what they can do to change that. Now, there's some that have said, as we all know, every state's electoral numbers are by the number of congressional people and 2 senators. There are some people that said they want to do the Electoral College in each state based on congressional districts. So if you have 32 congressional districts, it's not winner takes all. You can get 28-4 or vice versa, depending on. That's an interesting concept. That's up to the states to decide. But there's states can do a lot, and there's very little they can't do. But affecting federal elections is one of them.
Well, the elections is set by the state, not the federal government.
Now, they set up the premise for the elections, how it's voted on, and the rules for voting, but that's way different than the other.
Well, the thing
term limits for Congress, they can't do that.
The thing is, that was the same court case that you had in Texas sued Pennsylvania because they changed their federal election laws.
Right, it was unconstitutional in the state of Pennsylvania, right?
Yeah, and it affected other states. That was their argument.
Theoretically, that was their argument, and
what happened?
Court was out.
Yeah, they threw it out.
First, when they filed, they said, "Well, you're filing too early," and then when they filed, they said, "You're filing too late." And even Clarence Thomas, in a very rare public outrage, he was pissed.
Yeah,
he went, "Well, you know what?" He goes, "What the hell can you?" I mean, he even raised his voice, which is very unlike him. He says, "Well, you can't file too early. Now you filed too late. When the hell are you supposed to file?"
Anyway, when it comes to January 6th, the
January 6th commission, I think it's just going to be like, I'm sorry.
Committee.
It's the same thing. Committee, I think it's going to be a joke in the end. I think it's the last ditch grasping at straws. I'm more worried about the Democrats doing something like the January 6th commission after the November election. That's when they're going to be the most dangerous. From election day until they're sworn in early January of the new Congress. They're going to have a whole 40, 50 days that God knows do what, because most of them have nothing to lose now because they're voted out.
Yeah.
That's my fear. That God knows what they're going to come up with.
Well, so far, is there anything new that you've heard from this?
No, not really. It's a very one-sided version. It's kind of like if you're on trial for murder and only the prosecution gets to talk. You don't get to defend yourself.
Well, the one thing I heard that I thought was new that I never heard before, and Rachel Maddow was talking about it. She was like this, look, the people that went to the Capitol building and started that crap weren't the same people that were at the rally, at the beginning of the rally. And
Yeah, because they were pushing on the police.
yeah, while the
when
rally
Trump was talking.
Yeah. So my thing is, and she's even said it. She even said it on live TV. Okay.
No, she's only saying it now because the tide's turning the other way.
Well, she's like, how you correlate what Trump said to what they were doing at the same time when he was speaking.
It's like the old school, hang them all and let God sort it out.
Yeah.
No, that's basically what it is.
And I found it funny because I'm hearing it from Rachel Maddow saying this.
Oh, no, because finally she has to say something because they're cornered now. I mean, it's so. I mean, even Don Lemon asked the mental competency of the president the other day to the press secretary, and she wigged out.
Well,
so it's starting to come around because they have to.
Well, when it comes to her, I believe she did it because she got her ass burned when it came to the Russia collusion hoax, because she went 3 years. 3 years.
Remember the Trump tax returns? We have it right here in the envelope, but it was a 1 page, and they found out he paid more than he should have, and they ended up giving him money.
Yeah.
No, what I mean is that I think finally and truly, it took us a long time. Ratings and money revenue is finally coming to play. And ratings and money revenue should have been the number one thing at the beginning, but they put that till the end, and now they just can't ignore it anymore. Money is money, man. I don't care if you're Bernie Sanders. Believe me, everybody likes money, including news corporations. Unless you're the Washington Post or YouTube, where you can afford to lose money for 20 years. But
look who's doing majority of the advertising on those corporate news channels.
Yeah. Now you go on, and what is it? Biz something review. At the end of each article, they'll do a TV spot, and the bottom they'll say who sponsored it.
Right.
But anyway, go back to your January 6th thing. It's just a last ditch attempt. They know it's a show trial. It's kind of like the old Soviets, And I'm not calling Democrats Nazis, but the old fake trials where let's just give them a fair trial and then hang them.
I would compare it to McCarthy hearings. Really.
Oh, well, see, yeah, I remember I knew people that were involved that were screwed over the McCarthy. I was born in 56, so I'm a little bit older, but they ruined people's lives. Here's what these hearings are really about. They say we're going after Trump so he can't run again. That's probably partially true, but I think their number one reason, besides making Republicans look bad, which is the way politics works, they're informing every single person, whoever was associated with Donald Trump or worked with them, you will pay the price.
Yeah.
That's exactly what this is about. Look at Navarro, what he said to the judge.
You're Pierre Navarro. That's what's going on. He went
before the judge and he said, Your Honor, I'm going to defend myself because I'm not going to spend my retirement money defending myself. She said, okay, great. And they set up a date. I mean, they're starting to smarten up. What do they call it? The punishment is the process. And that's what it's really all about. And I'll tell you the truth. There's that 25-30% that are just cult members that'll never get it. But the ones in the middle are starting to realize this is BS.
Well, I talked about it on a video on my channel. I was like, the point of the Democrats doing this to Trump, they're trying to bankrupt him. That's what they're trying to do.
Oh, they can't bankrupt Trump.
Oh, you can do it if you take him to court enough. And not only that, his allies. They're going after his allies the same way. People
that's a different issue. His allies might not have the resources.
Yes, exactly. That's what I'm saying. I'll tell you, and not only that, since when Trump took office in 2016, he's worth $3 billion. Okay? 3 or 4, somewhere around there. And majority of that is like land assets and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's not liquid cash here.
Yeah. When he left, he actually lost half his wealth when he in that time span.
No, I get it. I get it.
They can hurt him pretty badly when it comes financially.
Yeah, but it's like saying, I'm in your house and you want me to get out and I won't leave. So you set the house on fire. Well, you're in the house too while it's burning. They're destroyed. The Democrat Party is destroying himself, trying to destroy Trump.
Yeah. Well, that's. But they have a backup plan with that court case that's going on in New York right now.
Yeah, the Southern District. That'll end up going up the food chain if it goes to the Supreme Court.
Well, what I'm figuring is going to happen with it. It's going to be a nothing burger like everything else.
It's going to be like, we have the tax returns for Donald Trump. Yeah, it's going to end up being all these promises. It's just We're just going to throw everything we can and hope some of it sticks. It's not going to. If they were smart, they would just give up on all this crap and concentrate on trying to win as many seats as they can for their party. But they won't do it because Trump's in their head rent free and they can't get him out.
So I got a question. You think Trump is the best candidate to run in 2022?
Yeah, I think he's better than DeSantis, and I'll tell you for a couple of reasons. One is his business acumen. I mean, his business, the way he's done business over the years, all that experience. Ron DeSantis is younger. He's a new governor. But the one thing I think is the number one reason why Trump would be better is because he was there. And one thing Donald Trump has done in his entire life, and he's made plenty of mistakes, both personally and financially, but he's never made the same mistake again. When he goes in there this time, he's not going to hear from Mitch McConnell. Remember Paul Ryan, and he believed all those guys. Now he's going to say, up yours. I'm going to fire everybody, and I know where to go now to fire people and make this thing run better. That's what he has head and shoulders above DeSantis. He would make a great VP, though.
See, this is my thought process. I think Trump is a better candidate to run, yes. But the reason is different. It's because I want Trump to go for 4 years. Then I want DeSantis for the next 8.
That's what I want, too. That's why I want DeSantis to be the VP.
Yeah. Well, no, I don't want DeSantis to be VP.
Who do you think would be a good VP for Trump?
I would pick someone that actually has a different, completely different way of managing things.
Like a Pence type character. He's a polar opposite personality. I don't mean that in a bad way.
No. I'd go with Ben Carson. I think
he'd be cool.
I think Ben Carson would be good. He's smart. He's also has completely different personality than Trump, but yet the two get along really well.
Yeah. I mean, he'd be okay. Oh, having somebody non-white as a vice president, you think the Republicans would ever get credit for that? You just did the clip where that woman that won the congressional seat was the first Mexican-born person to ever hold a congressional seat. And what did you get out of it? Crickets.
Yeah.
And a woman on top of it.
Yeah. And
if the Democrats did that, they'd be screaming, look how diverse we are. I don't think it really matters. I just think you need a nice balance for VP.
Well, I'm not picking him because of he's black. I was picking
a temperament balance. And I think, I go on True Social, but I think Trump has tempered down quite a bit. He's learned now. He speaks a lot better at rallies than he used to. He's learning the game and how to play it.
Yeah. But I think someone that has a little bit different temperament would actually be good for his vice president. And that would be
and that's why you picked Pence, I think. Very religious, evangelist, that type of thing to keep the evangelist part of the Republican Party say, listen, see, he's got a vice president that thinks like, that was a nice move.
Yeah. And the other thing about Carson is he stuck with Trump the whole time. He was there throughout his whole administration. Yep. And he stuck with him also through the whole thing with what happened in the election and everything. So I just think
that's common in business, and even every business and politics. Yeah. And when things get really tough, in the end, the guy says, "I'll remember who stuck by me."
I think Trump would be. The other thing is, Ben Carson's not going to run for president in 2024.
No, of course not.
I think.
In fact, I personally believe, and I saw a couple of episodes on YouTube channels that were saying if Trump runs in 2024, DeSantis will walk away. A good third of the states will just say we're canceling our primary.
Yeah,
they can do that. They've done it all. They do it all the time.
Yeah.
So he'll have a third of the delegates without doing anything.
Yep.
And I think it's probably proper. Who wants the infighting and the BS? Well, you get some rogue Republican might, but.
And that's the reason DeSantis wouldn't run if Trump was in there, because he knows all that would do is maybe hurt his stock.
It would hurt him doubly. It would hurt the Republican Party. And number two is his constituents in Florida would be really PO'd because they like him.
Well, I think
you want to leave us.
It's not only that, it would hurt him as well because Trump would be talking bad about him.
Yeah.
And it would hurt him for 2028.
Yeah. So what I mean is that maybe he'd probably be a good VP, maybe state governor. I don't know. But either way, though, I think he would be perfect for 2028. He would be the right age. He'd be a little bit more seasoned. He'd be a little bit more, we'll say, he knows the ins and outs. Florida is a big state, money-wise and population. And he hasn't really been there long. Remember, he only won by like 20,000 votes or some damn thing when he won the first time. So,
All right. Who do you think's going to run in 2024 for Democrats then?
oh my God, it's like, who do they have? It's like you're playing spin the bottle and the girl is really ugly and the guy spin the bottle and hope it's not them. You know?
Well, one of the ones I think that could run and maybe even beat Trump is really pretty. Her name is Tulsi Gabbard. I think if she ran, I think she would have a chance to actually.
I have
winning.
some respect for Tulsi Gabbard, but the fact of the matter is, though, she's way, way, way too left for me.
Oh yeah, but the thing is, she's way, way, way too right for the majority of Democrats.
The DNC and the people in charge of the party hate her guts.
Yes, I know she's way, way too right for them.
No, but they hated Bernie's guts, and look what happened twice.
Yeah. Well, the thing, she's actually a Bernie supporter back in.
I know. I remember.
2016. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Big Mike.
You know, it might be somebody like he's probably thinking about Bloomberg.
Who's Big Mike?
Yeah, if it's Bloomberg, I mean, you know, I'll tell you the truth though. People collect political memorabilia. If you can have 20 years from now, Bloomberg for president signs, they're probably worth some money. I mean, he was only ran for what, 10 minutes?
Yeah.
But my take is the only one that has a name recognition nationally. Actually, there's two, and one you're going to laugh. But I'll say the first one you're not going to laugh about first is Gavin Newsom.
No, I'm going to laugh anyway.
No, everybody's going to be a laugh. But I'm saying is, though, the guy's good looking. He's a good public speaker. He's got stage presence. He's got some charisma. That's important stuff to have.
Did you know this about?
And the other one is Andy Cuomo.
Yeah, he ain't
he's rehabilitating himself. You don't live in New York. He's starting to come around. Remember, he broke 0 laws.
Okay, but when it comes to Gavin Newsom, what do you know about him personally?
Oh, almost everything I know is bad.
Well, okay. Did you know he's dyslexic and he can't read very well? All the speeches,
there's rages of that, but I heard he has an issue with that. Yeah,
all the speeches he does, he remembers.
Yeah, because he's not stupid.
Yeah.
No, I'm saying it.
Well,
I mean, you asked me what they have. I'm not going to defend the person they pick. I'm just telling you what they have to choose from.
The thing is, I'm dyslexic, so when I heard it, I was like,
but no, you're just asking me. You didn't ask for good Democratic candidates. You asked who they're going to pick.
No, I think
that's the only one I can think of. Now, who's the governor of Colorado? I forget his name.
Yeah.
He used to be moderate. I don't think he is anymore. Yeah. But here's the thing: you got to remember something. I was born in 1956. And I think since Warren Harding, if I'm not mistaken, only 2 people have come directly from government, i.e. the Congress. No congressman, but both of them were senators. There's only been 2. So you're going to have to pick somebody that's a governor or outside the loop or a former senator. And the only 2 in my lifetime were John Kennedy and Barack Obama.
All right. What about an actor? What about someone like Trump? You know, game show host or an entrepreneur.
There wasn't just a reality TV show with Trump. He was that billionaire real estate developer, but he was involved in politics. And I've seen old Oprah Winfrey shows where they say, well, you're suddenly going to run for president. So he's kind of been involved for a long time. So it wasn't like he's just, an actor that just decided to get into politics. He was really involved in it for a long, long time, just not running for election.
Another person I'm hearing a lot is Michelle Obama, and
she would never do it.
Yeah, and I was like, I don't think she would do it because she saw what happened to Hillary.
She saw what happened with her husband too. You go through that crap, it'll be twice as bad.
Yeah.
Oh no, they're on the gravy train, man.
Yeah.
But they're and I'll tell you the truth. To be fair, the Republican bench sucks too. There's not many besides DeSantis and Trump. That's it, man.
I don't know. I like a few others.
There's people that I like, but not necessarily can win or run for president. There's a difference.
Well, the fact is, if you got bad choices on both sides, you got a pretty good chance of winning.
Exactly. That's why everybody says, well, you know what, John, here's what's going to happen. Trump's going to run again. And all the people that think Trump is just the monster incarnate and all that stuff. I won't say the buzzwords that YouTube doesn't like, but he's just a monster. We're all going to come out and vote again. No. That's not going to happen. There was a perfect storm between COVID, the ballot stuff, the mail-ins, the riots. I mean, go on and on and on. That was a perfect storm. And you remember, he only lost the Electoral College by 20,000 votes, and he still almost won. So I'm not worried about the nut bars coming out of the woodwork that didn't come out, that came out to vote against Trump. They will again. I don't think they're going to come out at all in the numbers they did before.
No, I don't think so either.
I mean, it's like, I was around. I got married in 79, so I remember the Jimmy Carter inflation. I mean, I remember now, thank God, her and I both made decent money. It wasn't great money, but it was decent between the two of us, but I didn't have any kids, so it really didn't matter much.
Well, the thing is, the inflation numbers, how they calculate is way different than what they did back then. Back then, they had calculated whenever they added fuel and also food. They're not doing that now.
Yeah, so it's probably worse. But remember, the thing was, though, we had gas rationing here in upstate. We had gas rationing here in upstate New York.
Well, you're going to get that this summer.
Now, I remember I was on my honeymoon, which would be August of 79. And we traveled through New England and all through the Virginia in a big loop. And there was odd even. And I was in a state outside of New York. And the guy wouldn't sell me any gas. I said, listen, sir, the odd even is only New York City. It was just New York City. Well, I showed him my ID. Here's a map. I'm nowhere near New York City. He wouldn't sell me the gas. Luckily, we found another gas station. That's a true story. But the rationing, I don't know if that's going to happen or not. Some stations might just run out.
I think what you're going to have, they're already calling for rolling blackouts half the country. Half the country's turned into California.
Flip some more windmills.
Yeah, that ain't going to help.
And that's what Newt Gingrich said at a college. He says, why do you people want to kill millions of birds for? I thought you liked animals.
Yeah.
And they looked at him like, what? He says, you know how many millions of birds get killed in windmills? They had no clue.
Not only birds, bats.
Bats, yeah.
It's horrible for bats because bats are pollinator, and that's, create a lot of the forests.
I mean, they're all part of the ecosystem, and one part of the chain of the ecosystem goes by. Like when Yellowstone, they get rid of all the wolves. Well, they reintroduced them because it screwed up the ecosystem. That's why they're there.
Yep.
To weed out the weak ones and the strong ones reproduce and move on. That's just simple. What I'm trying to say is we got to tinker with stuff all the time. You're better off just leaving it alone, including government, including prices, including laws, everything. I remember when I was a councilman, I used to say, well, we want to make this unlawful.
All right. You convinced me. No term limits. You convinced me. Stop tinkering shit. But
no, I wasn't thinking of term limits when I said that.
Yeah, but when you said it, I was like, okay, you convinced me on that one. But you know what? I still think something needs to be fixed.
Well, I'll put to you this way. I think the way that the people that are for term limits will slowly change their opinion if a lot more people at the local level participate in elections, i.e. helping candidates that you like to think are good, knocking on doors, all that legwork stuff that people don't see. I think that would make a big difference in getting incumbents out.
See, I got involved in the 2000 election in Virginia.
Oh, geez, that one, yeah, the hanging chads.
I was in Virginia. I was in Virginia at the time. I remember when it happened. I had sore loserman on there on my shirt and everything.
Yeah.
And I went around and campaigned. Not campaigned. Gave out brochures and stuff, and talked to people, knocking on doors. It's the first election I ever voted in.
Now, I remember I was on city council and I used the Supreme Court ruling for that 2000 election. I was a Democrat, but my first term, there was 5 Republicans and 4 Democrats. In order for me to get legislation to come to the floor, you had to have the majority of councilmen sign on it. So I said, wait a minute. I said, the Supreme Court just picked the president because the Supreme Court allows something to be heard only with 4 members. Mm-hmm. And that was the point I was trying to make. So they even picked the president and we can't put legislation in here at a local level. I remember that was my arguing point.
Yeah.
Oh, God, they were so mad. And here's the weird part. All those congressional people that stood up, and the videos are all over YouTube, that challenged that election. And Al Gore, ironically, was in the Senate, going over the electoral numbers. Because remember, he was vice president.
He was vice president, yeah.
And they were getting out of hand. He gave them out of order and says, we have rules here. Anyway, they asked a congressman would have challenged it. Says, do you have an accompanying letter from a U.S. senator? And they said no. And they went through like 30 and one after another. That's not election integrity stuff, Democrats, Ronald Reagan won twice. They did it. Every time a Republican wins, the Democrat congressman cry foul, and it wasn't a fair election. And they want it overthrown. And all of a sudden now, if somebody questions an election and are on the other side of the aisle, you're an insurrectionist and you want to destroy democracy. You know what? Bite me. Enough's enough.
Well, guys, we're going to have to end the show. We went for an hour. I hope y'all enjoy me and John arguing for the first about 30 minutes.
We weren't arguing. No, we were just putting out our opinions and trying to back it up with some facts, just like normal people do.
All right. We're going to have to go. John, you got the last word before we go.
Well, everybody, shameless plug, please watch my channel. Those of you that can't watch hundreds of hours, I get it. Share the link in my description for my videos. You see the name there, John Cordisco, Cordisco's Corner. And share with everybody you can on your social media sites. And also follow Matt. Matt's got a great show as well. Get the word out. This is why we're winning. Little guys and little channels like ours are starting to make a difference, and you can help us do that.
Guys, I got his link down in the bottom description there. Go check it out.
Okay.
Yep.
I appreciate that, Matt. And boy, I'll tell you what, you just made my day. I actually changed your mind on something.